Okay, guys, part two, NHL 101. If you are, I guess, catching this for the first time, go back and see part one. You can easily find it on the YouTube channel, probably pinned in the beginners or NHL rooms. We started talking about correlation and things with dailyfaceoff.com as one of the outside sources that we do pay attention to here at DFS Army. But let's dive into the DFS Army tools at this point, and let's talk first a little bit about cheat sheets because I think that's what everybody goes to. You get a coach who's telling you his plays and his picks and why, and you get the detailed notes and things. You get the blue core plays, you get the 5-star confidence plays. Those types of things really help you set things up. And a lot of times a coach isn't going to recommend you somebody who isn't stacked. If they do mention it, if they do recommend it, they're going to mention that he's probably not on the same line as the other guys, but you're going to get short player pools, very easy things to focus on. And at the bottom, I mean, you will get goalie recommendations too, but at the bottom, you're going to get the lines to stack, right? These are the guys that you're looking for. If you were opting for Carolina tonight, you'd rock off with Svechnikov and Burns, probably with Aho, maybe another one or two that kind of slot in there. That's where you might use the domination station for another line one or power play one mate, or dailyfaceoff.com to pick another guy. Maybe you need some salary relief and you need a value play in that spot. Maybe you can stack all three of these guys. That would be the way to go. That's what the coach is telling you. These are probably the most likely guys to produce the points. And of course, we've got a stack salary in there too to let you know which stacks are really expensive and which ones aren't. You're going to find Edmonton, if you're using McDavid and Draisaitl or McDavid, Nugent Hopkins types, or Toronto with Matthews Tavares types, you're going to see some pretty expensive stacks. That's just going to be the way that it goes. But again, these are the players that you can kind of, when you're short on time, you can go, you can read some notes, you can get familiar with the game pretty quickly just by looking at these things, and you've got the coach there to help you. And again, you've got the coaches in the Discord rooms to help you clarify some points should you have some questions. Now, I mean, ask questions that are not necessarily related to the cheat sheets. Don't make him echo his own words. Just, again, put that stuff out there. Ask, how does this correlate? How does that correlate? What if I didn't want to use Edmonton? What if I wanted to use Philly? He'd say, well, he's on my sheet. Go for it. You know what I mean? So rest assured that you're going to get the confidence of the coach if you stay in line with what the coach feels for that night. But if you want to do your own research and you want to branch out and do your own thing and add to this, or kind of, I'll look at the coaches, I'll take it into consideration, and then I may use it, I may not. I just want to use it as part of my game plan, as part of what I do. You would dive into our research station. And our research station is going to give you a ton of data. And I don't have time to go through all of it right now, so I'll just kind of hit the high points. And you can go through a lot of this on your own time. But if you're looking at today's date, December 27th, or yesterday's date, I guess, you've got Columbus and New Jersey. You can see the implied team totals here. You can see the odds. You can see the over-under. And you see a whole bunch of statistics for the team. Their record, their road record, last 10 games, 2 years versus opponent. If you're into, Columbus versus New Jersey matchups, you can look into that kind of stuff. And red is typically bad, green is typically good. Red for goals against would be high. Green for goals against would be low. Red for goals for would be low. Green for goals for would be high. So you've got a good offense in New Jersey, and you've got it, but they do give up some goals. So that puts Columbus in a pretty good matchup just right off the bat. You've also got Columbus giving up a lot of goals. See, red goals against, red goals against. Tells me that this game has some shootout potential, right? That's why the over-under isn't a 6, 6.5, it's a 7. That's why the implied team total for the Devils is a 5. Okay? So the Devils are in a very, very good spot. They're implied to score 5 goals, and they're in a game facing a team that allows goals against, right? No brainer. So if I'm looking again at these situations, who would I be looking for? I can look here towards some of the goalie stuff if I want and see how red the goalie is against for Columbus. That's bad. Therefore, that puts New Jersey in a good spot. Again, all the data is starting to line up. So who on New Jersey would I be focusing on? Well, here's your top line, and it also shows who's on what power play units. So if I wanted to use a defensive pair, or not a defensive pair, but a line 2 center like Hischier here, I'd put him up here with power play 1. If I stack Toffoli, Hughes, Bratt, and Hischier, I've got a 4-man giant power play 1 stack that covers the line 1 and a little bit of line 2. But I'm looking more for, I don't look too much at DVP and things like that. I'm looking more for who's hot. On the season, these guys are all scoring. Look at these goals and assists. They're all scoring. They're all shooting. 301 shots for that line compared to 192 shots for the Columbus top line. That's a big, big, big difference. Last 10 games, they're all green. Last 5 games, they're all green. They're running very, very well right now. All of New Jersey's running pretty well right now. These line up for good spots. Pick among them as you see fit. You want Toffoli and Hughes with Heischer? Great. You want Hughes and Bratt with Heischer? Great. You want to include one of the defensive pairing guys? That's maybe if there is one on the power play one, like Hughes here? Great. Okay, all of them work. You just want to stay within the same lines. When you're stacking these lines, L1s and D1s are great. L1s and D2s are okay if the PP1 stuff correlates, right? Pick one, L1s and D1s or PP1s and PP2s. Basically correlate and stay within this when you're building your lineups. If I'm looking at New Jersey, I'm going to say I want power play 1, so anybody with a PP1, I can finagle in, out of my lineup, and I'm at least correlated when I've got 3 or 4 of them in the lineup together. If I want the L1s, I can use a D1 if he's cheap. I can use even a D2 because it loosely correlates, but I'm generally wanting to keep all of those L1s on the same in that same lineup. Okay? If I scroll down a little bit more, you can find that there's no I implied team total here is not a 5, so people are going to be going to those New Jersey Devils. Maybe they'll score, maybe they won't. Hockey is a volatile game, but they are in a great matchup to do a lot of scoring. If you said, I don't ever play the highest one, I play a little bit under the radar, and I play a couple of the lower ones, then maybe New York is your team, and you're looking here at some of the green guys here, and you're doing the same thing. You're correlating. You could use New York Rangers with New Jersey Devils and have a great lineup. It's not going to be wrong, regardless of its results. You could look over here and say power play or the implied total for Florida Panthers and Tampa Bay is not as high. I don't want to touch that game. 4.4 for Toronto. Maybe I use Toronto and New Jersey where somebody else is using New York and New Jersey. Fine choices. All fine. Okay? This is how you roll through these numbers. And you're looking at things like shots on goal. Those are your activity bonuses. Blocks are your activity bonuses, but you're really looking for the goals and the assists because you want to scoop goals and assists with that correlated stacked line. When you're looking at things like some of the more particular things like our stack finders, you can jump in here and you can take that Toronto line and you can expand it and you can take a look at which players, Matthews, Nylander, Tavares, Marner, which of these guys are on the line together, which of these guys make the most sense in the power plays, and you would obviously be wanting to include the hotter guys. Some guys, last 5 games, you've got Austin Matthews with 9 goals. So you'd probably want to put him on your power play unit if you chose Toronto as a team you were focusing on tonight. Over on the power play 2 side, doesn't look like anybody's all that hot on this side. So you might not want to use the power play 2. If you're playing with the domination station and it starts throwing you a bunch of Toronto power play 2, you might say, my earlier research today said that's not necessarily a great spot, so I'm probably going to uncheck those guys and disallow them. That's how you start to narrow your player pool down to the guys that are performing, and then you can invest your time in the domination station optimizer and set it up by only using guys that are set to perform. You might put a minimum, or you might put a like, love, or adore or something on Austin Matthews to make sure that in the Toronto power play builds that you're getting out of the optimizer, that you're getting a ton of Austin Matthews in there with everybody. And you may get some Matthews, Nylander, Matthews, Marner, Matthews, Riley, whatever, mixing and matching, but everything rotating around that core play of Austin Matthews. Hopefully that makes some sense. And we've got this lineup stacking tool for both the power play and the regular. We've also got goalie numbers. You want to dive into these goalies and figure out which goalies are carrying the most value with the projections, which are allowing the fewest shots, which are projected to carry the most points, which have the highest win chances. Look through their season numbers, look through their last 10 starts, look through their last 5 starts. These things help, okay? And you can also do the exact same thing for all of the skaters. That's the beauty. If you want to look at just line 1 skaters, turn them on, and line 2 skaters that are also on power play units, there you go. Now you've got them all lined up for you, and you can say, oh, which of these guys is bringing the most value on FanDuel? There you go. You should probably look through the teams here and see if you see any repeats. Carolina, St. Louis, Vegas, Anaheim, Boston. It's a lot of one-offs at this point. So if I don't see a particular line that I want to stack that is really ravaging the value, that is really, really mispriced, I might then look at this and say, well, these are a couple of my one-offs. If I'm using New Jersey and Toronto, then maybe I want to use a Svechnikov or a Kyrou or a Dorofeyev or somebody like that as my one-off play in my stacked lineups when I can't stack every piece. I need a one-off to fit in here or there. And at 2,800 on DraftKings, Dorofeyev makes a ton of sense. He's shooting the puck. He's scoring points. He's projected to score more points, and he's dirt cheap. He rounds out your stacked lineups really, really well because he can pay off his salary. It's an easy punt play, right? These are the kinds of things that once you get familiar with these tools, they really, really help you. And you can scroll over here, and again, you can see season-long stats, last 10 games, last 5 games. You can even look over here for consistency ratings. How often is Andrei Svechnikov hitting at least 5 points in his last 20 games? How often is he hitting 25 points in his last 20? You want these guys with these really, really high floors. In his last 5 games, Jordan Kyrou has hit 30-plus points 40% of the time. 2 out of his last 5 games have been 30-plus monsters, and 4 out of his last 5 games have been at least 10. Is he bringing value? Looks like it, right? These are the things that help you determine maybe your cash-safe players. Jordan Kyrou probably is a cash-safe recommendation when he's on the ice right now, okay? Whereas a couple of months ago he wasn't. But look down here. Last 10 games, Austin Matthews. Is he cash safe? 90% of the time he's hitting 10 points. 70% of the time he's hitting 30-plus. Now, granted, you're going to pay for it, but yeah, 7 out of his last 10 games have been 30-plus point monsters on FanDuel. That's pretty good. That's a cash game play. That's why he's going to be chalky. That's why he's going to be the key focal point in anybody that uses any kind of Toronto stacks. Now, how would you get different in a tournament? Maybe you would stack New Jersey and the New York Rangers like we mentioned before, and then you would come back and instead of stacking Toronto, you would use an Austin Matthews one-off. Just another way to get a little bit different. These are the ways that you construct lineups that win tournaments. And if this is the kind of information that you want to build with, we might come back and do a domination station video. In fact, for the last couple of minutes, let's just jump over and show you how to run some default stuff. I would use the optimal mode or tournament mode, which I guess whichever one you want. Put in a few unique players, 2, 3, maybe 4. Run 20 lineups. Uncheck lines 3 and 4, me personally. I don't want any of them. I would include a little bit of randomness because hockey's a random game. And then in the stacking stuff, I would set my formations. 3x3, 4x2, 4x3 type of stuff is fine. And then whatever teams that I wanted to use. See how line 1's line 2, power play 1, and power play 2 are already kind of checked. I guess power play 2 is not. But if I just wanted to run these configurations and then run it however the optimizer wanted to run it, that's fine. This will work. But if I wanted to randomly mix and match teams, that's fine. If I didn't want any Anaheim or any Arizona or any Calgary or any Seattle or any San Jose in my lineups, that's fine. I won't have any. If I uncheck them, I won't have any. This allows me to narrow my player pool down. If I only wanted New Jersey, New York, Toronto, whatever, those I could set up accordingly and have just those teams in my lineups, right? In my stacking side of my lineups. And let's say I wanted to just put, I want, no more than 40% of any team in there. I can wholesale change, or if I want to allow more Vegas, I can allow up to 70% of them, but then 40% of everybody else. Whenever I get these little configurations set, I can then optimize my lineups. And once these lineups crank off, I'm going to pause the video really quick, so I've only got about 30 seconds left. Hold on. Okay, so once these lineups build, they do take a little while because of all the math going back and forth, but once these lineups build, you've got a lot of Jordan Kyrou, which we saw made sense. You don't have a lot of Austin Matthews, which is interesting, but you have all of your Toronto lineups stacked. You have your Carolinas stacked with them. Come down here, there's New Jersey stacked. There's St. Louis stacked with them. There's Minnesota and Boston stacked together. All of these lineups are correlated. They're going to build you strong lineups that have winning chances. And that's just the basics. If you need more detail, you need to be a VIP and you need to jump in here and start asking questions.